folks. Well, after what seemed like a ridiculously long hiatus, the Leafs played and won another road game. Hey, they're playing scrappy hockey, good goaltending, secondary scoring. What's going on with this team? Well, you know what? We're going to break it all down for you right here on the OZone.
You're in the offensive zone, your place for Leafs hockey.
Hey, folks, welcome to the OZone. That's Coach. We love you, KD. I'm the Devo. We're here to talk all things Leafs. Coming to you from a very gray, spring-like day here in Toronto, Coach. Where are you at?
Hey, Devo, good to see you. It's been a while. I'm in sunny London today. It's actually, maybe just slightly overcast London today. But, hey, we talk all the time to our subscribers, many of which are in Toronto and Southern Ontario. But I'm telling you, Ozone Nation is everywhere. Here's a couple of examples. Here's our buddy Chase Branham. Look at that, our offensive zone T-shirt. Talk to his dad. You may recall his dad's having some health troubles. He's doing a lot better. That's good
news. That's great.
Remember, we got some subscribers in Paducah, Kentucky. Well, our buddy Greg Beal just had a granddaughter, Charlotte. Take a look here in her Leafs gear. That's pretty good.
Beautiful.
And Devo, I got a shout out this week from Eric Bakuniak. He lives in Hanover, Germany.
Beautiful.
And he says, "What's up?" And so we're everywhere, right? I didn't have his picture, so here's Leon Draisaitl with the leaf on the side of his head for our German subscribers. So anyway, hey, like we say all the time, we're everywhere, and we're starting to get fired up. Playoff time coming around the corner.
Yeah, here it comes. All right, folks, listen. I'm going to do the call out. You got to remember, a lot of you guys are watching this video, and we love having you here. But hit subscribe. You'll never miss any content. Like and share the video. It helps spread the word. And, of course, leave a comment. When you do, good things happen. Hey, T-shirts sometimes show up. It's all good. Coach, the Leafs have some new guys in the lineup. We're gonna look at that. But for now, I want to we have some games. We have some of our core guys. I want to take a look at that. Marner's still out. This was not really heavily advertised. He got injured in that game against Boston. Still hasn't come back, and there doesn't seem to be a lot of details on what's going on. Called a lower body injury. Obviously, Yarncroc banged up, still out. Labushkin kind of banged up a little bit. Probably not going to go in tonight's game. Tavares didn't skate in the morning practice. That was a little bit odd. Not too sure about that. Is there something we should be worried about here, Coach?
I don't think so. What they're saying about Marner is it's a high ankle sprain, but it's really minor. I guess he had that same thing last year. Remember, Liljegren was out 3 or so weeks with that. I think that's minor. I think, bumps and bruises for the other guys. Well, I mean, we'll see. But the one, if anything, I'd be worried about is Yarncroc. Apparently, it's a hand injury, and he just came off of breaking that knuckle. I wonder if it's the same thing. Yeah, and, of a roster where we have superstars and then guys that are like just guys, he's sort of not just a guy. He's not a superstar either. He's on the upper end of just a guy. He could be pretty important for us, Yarncroc. So if anything, that's what I might be worried about. But, we got a month left here. I would expect all those guys to be able to heal up and be ready.
Yeah, I think so too. But, of course, as the temperature starts to rise here, we got to cover it here at the Ozone. Bobby McMann, now that we're talking about just guys, Bobby McMann played himself onto the team, and he got rewarded with a shiny new 2-year deal. What do you make of this? Does it represent a style change or the future? What do we got here, Coach?
Yeah, look, it's a great story. It's been told a lot here where he was waived to start the year, wasn't claimed, kind of stuck around. Remember that game they had the hat trick? Wasn't even supposed to play, but guys were sick. Comes in, has a hat trick, and really hasn't come out of the lineup since. But so that's awesome. Great. He works hard. He's big. He is physical. It's fantastic. But I mean, he's just a guy. but as we talked about,
Mm-hmm.
you need just the guys to come in and be somewhat productive. You know who he is, like who he compares to. Really, I don't know if Leaf fans are going to like hearing this or not, but it's Pierre Engvall. And if
Yeah.
you don't believe me, take a look here. Here's their careers so far: Pierre Engvall versus Bobby McMahon. They are almost exactly the same goals, assists, and points per game, and shots per game. Bobby McMahon shoots a little more.
Mm-hmm.
So Engvall's got a bit bigger body of work. I will say this: it's not shown there, but Bobby McMahon hits a lot more than Pierre Engvall, which
Yes.
was the frustrating thing as a Leaf fan.
Yep.
Engvall's huge; he's sculpted out of granite, and he
Yep.
wouldn't hit anybody. So,
Yep.
but anyway, yeah, good for Bobby McMahon. I mean, look, we talk all the time here, over and over again, about these guys. They come up, especially with this roster as constructed, and they're going to get a shot. Take your shot. Go do something with it. He's done something with it. Now he's a legit pro, legit NHLer. Good for him.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good segue. And I think, Pierre Engvall certainly got his shots here in Toronto. We talked a lot about him. We liked his sort of jackknife potential. He was a good penalty killer. Pretty quick for a man his size. He just missed, like if he had a little bit more offensive jam or maybe was a little bit nastier, he probably would have been one of those guys that everyone loved. Just missed. Maybe McMahon can grow into that role.
Yeah.
And talking about a guy who needs to take opportunities as they come, and I know a lot of the fan base has been very frustrated for Nick Robertson. He's had some moments this year, some good ones, and yet it seems to keep getting passed over. Well, listen, folks, with Marner and Yarncroc out, he's getting another opportunity here. What's it going to take, Coach, for him to do something that makes everyone take notice and keeps him in the lineup?
Yeah, another prime example of, we say, here's a guy who's got a chance, go and run with it, right? And so I get it, and a lot of the talk on the socials is about Nick Robertson not really getting a chance. So what I did was I dug into the numbers and I looked at the guys really in his immediate peer group. So Noah Gregor, Pontus Holmberg, and Bobby McMahon, who just signs this deal. So on the surface, it actually looks pretty comparable. So here's scoring, essentially. So Nick Robertson played the exact same amount of games as Bobby McMahon. And if you look all the way on the right, all these guys play about the same amount of time per game. It's like a one shift difference, right?
Yep.
Robertson leads in points. Him and McMahon are only a point apart, two points apart on goals. What stands out in this analysis is Noah Gregor. My goodness. He's played the most games. He has the least points. He's the worst plus minus. His shooting percentage isn't very good. But so you would say, hey, Nick Robertson deserves more, at least be in the mix with guys like this. But here's the thing, Devo. He's not used the same way. So if we look at this just a little differently here, right?
Yep.
Look at this. He starts in the offensive zone all the time. He gets favorable starts, 63%. Gregor and McMahon are buried in their own zone. Holmberg's about even, 50-50, right? Also, Robertson plays on the power play almost double McMahon and really much more than anybody else, and he does not kill penalties. Okay, so that's a different guy on this team. That's a top six guy on this team.
Yes.
He's playing a top six role. And, the last thing I'll point out is for hits, he's got 25 hits, and he's played the same amount as Bobby McMahon, who has 88, right? Noah Gregor's got a ton of hits. You want to know why Noah Gregor plays? All the rest of his stats are terrible because he hits. So the thing with Robertson, though, Devo, he's in a role where he's expected to do more, not be on a 15-goal pace or less than 20. Like actually go in and contribute. And the reason for that is A, he's skilled, and B, he's proven he cannot play a bottom six role. He's not trusted. He doesn't forecheck like those other guys and go bang guys. He has to score. So it looks like he's going to get a shot, like you said. He has to put up some numbers. It's not good enough to be 6'2" and run around and have energy like Bobby McMahon, who just got rewarded for that.
Yes.
Right? He can't play that way. He's not expected to play that way. He has to start producing.
Yeah, when you compare, Bobby McMahon's type of minutes, starting the majority of his starts out in his own zone, and has the same amount of points. I mean, to me, that's
almost no power play time either.
Yeah,
right?
0. Yeah. Yeah, that's something, and that's a good comparison. It's one I think that the fan base loves the story of Nick Robertson. They do. They love it, and understandably so. But you got to see the whole picture. If you, I think everyone's cheering for him. Let's hope he does well.
Yeah, look, I think he came out of junior about the same time as Cole Caulfield did in Montreal. Cole Caulfield came in, scored a bunch of goals early, and he looked at that as a direct comparable. As predictably, Cole Caulfield has really cooled off in recent years. But he's an NHLer. I'm sure Robertson sees himself the same. So go prove it now. Here's a shot. Go prove it now. We're all pulling for you.
For sure. And he'll be in the lineup tonight. So it'll be interesting to see. All right, Coach. You were rather critical. We both were rather critical, but you were particularly critical, maybe going back a few weeks, at certain pieces that we brought in this past summer. I'll be specific here with respect to the production out of Bertuzzi and Domi. But listen, they've been kind of maybe not even so quietly turning things around a little bit of late. Are we starting to see some consistently scrappy play out of this part of the lineup? And is this what we had hoped for back in July?
Yeah, look, I'm not sure we all hoped for scrappy back in July, and if we were, we probably weren't all that happy when John Klingberg signed or David Kampf for 3 years. But yes, I think with the rest of the signings, Reeves for sure, Domi and Bertuzzi are supposed to give you a little more grit, and Simon Benoit, who's actually been a good signing here.
Yeah.
I think it's fair to say that we've been scrappier, definitely of late, a lot more consistent, which I think is really good for us. So. In terms of scrappy, it's not so much Domi. Like I actually think Domi benefits from how scrappy his dad was. Right? Yes, he gets in there after the whistle. Yes, he takes a lot of penalties, but Devo, he has less hits than Mitch Marner this year.
Yeah,
I don't know that he mixed it up that much, but I'll tell you what, it's undeniable about Bertuzzi. In the last 10 games or so, I remember I got on here and I said he scores about once a month, which is like married guys score about once a month. He's really picked it up. He's got 6 goals, 9 points in his last 10 games. Hey, we would take that in round 1, wouldn't we?
For sure. Absolutely. And I think you hit on something there, Coach. It's the consistency by which they're playing this style. It's one thing to go out and have a period or finish off a game in a certain way. But if you're bringing it every single night, that's your identity. And it'll be interesting to see. We've kind of talked about it a little bit here on the pod. Is their identity changing? Is this something that's very subtle? Are we starting to see this team maybe not be a second period tear, not be a possession only team, but be someone that's after the whistle, putting their gloves in people's faces, being a little bit tougher, chest out hockey? Are we starting to see that here in Leafland? And will it pay dividends in the spring? I mean, that's really all that matters, right? Yeah. Okay. So we touched on him, certainly on his production of late, but who's been the biggest revelation in the past few weeks? Has it been Bertuzzi or Samsonov, Coach?
Yeah, look, I was glad to be wrong about Bertuzzi. He really wasn't producing. He was getting his looks. You hear Keefe talk about him. Keefe was always confident he was going to come around because he was getting shots in tight. You can't miss that many. It's got to come around. So I'm glad to be wrong about him, and I'm glad to see him produce. And let's hope that we see the guy that got moved to Boston at the deadline last year. and he had like 5 goals when he got moved, and people were scratching their heads. Then he gets in and catches fire, and he was their best guy in the playoffs.
No question, their best guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's been a revelation, but not the biggest. I mean, look, I thought, and many people thought, Samsonov had played himself out of the league. Like, remember, he sat there for 2 weeks and didn't do anything. Didn't play with Marlies. Didn't just thought about life. I thought he was done. But then, if you look at even through his rough patch, his whole season, look at this win percentage. Yep. He's got the second highest win percentage in the whole league. This is a great story. So I'm really happy for the guy. But think about this, right? Look at Edmonton. So Samsonov faltered here, and they had to do something radical. So did Edmonton. They moved Campbell down. And so when Samsonov was trying to find himself, he's really lucky that Joseph Wall was hurt. Because if Wall's here and playing well and Jones is there may not be room to bring him back up.
That's right.
Like Campbell, he's stuck. He seems to have turned it around, but he's stuck now, and they're not going to bring him back. So there's happenstance here too. But I give him the credit. He seems to be turned around. And if you watch him talk after games and stuff, like his head is right. It's much better. He's not doubting himself. This is good news. Yeah,
no, he is definitely a fellow that seems to wear his entire life on his sleeve and on his face. You know where his head is in those interviews after. And he's one of those guys that when things aren't going his way, gosh, you just feel for him because it just seems like it's all there, right?
Yeah, goalies are fun. Campbell was like that too.
Campbell was a lot like that too. Yeah,
he starts off and he had a historic start through November, and then somebody loosened the lug nuts and the wheels came off. And for whatever happened, and he got kind of hurt, but maybe he wasn't hurt. He came back and he was okay. Yeah. He was okay in the playoffs. Let's hope that's the Samsonov keeps going that way.
That's right. Let's change gears a little bit here, Coach. I think we need to address Liljegren. I, in particular, have been pretty tough on him, his style, his game in general. I have been for a while. This isn't new, but as we start getting closer to the spring, I have my doubts on this guy. And I was pretty vocal about it last pod. I suspected that, in my opinion, he would be the odd man out, the 7, maybe even 8, the 8th guy. The only thing he's got going for him is the curve on his stick. But and geez, against Boston, he was really not good. But my goodness, was he ever good against Philly? That's got to give him some confidence, I hope. It seems like the coach is trying to pump some air into his tires too. What do you make of this? Where do you slot him in? And does that game versus Philly give you some hope?
Yeah, I'm going to go on a little tangent here. Maybe he's an important player for the Leafs, and not just because of his curve. Because, like it or not, the Leafs simply are not Florida or Boston. They're not heavy forechecking teams, even though they're playing scrappier. Yes. The Leafs stars have to score in order for them to succeed in the playoffs. And to do that, because as you pointed out last time, Devo, there's no room, they have to receive the puck with speed. So off the window and out works for Radko Gudas, and it works for Carlo in Boston, right? Teams with great forechecks, you can afford just to get it out. But that's not likely to work for Toronto because when you get it out, it's hard to get it back. Yeah. And so this is why Liljegren is so valuable if he's playing well. And we talked about Engvall before, where the frustrating thing about guys like that is they show this flash of something much better, right? But he has not been able to harness that consistently.
That's right.
So if you look at the way they're set up, Edmonton and Lyubushkin, those are off the window guys, right? They're big, heavy guys. Benoit, too, if he plays.
For sure.
So if Benoit plays, the Leafs would be better in their own end. But that hasn't been the problem. Let me show you this. Here's something that changes the narrative from what we usually think about. Here's the last 3 playoff years. Toronto, Boston, and Florida. This will surprise most everybody. The Leafs gave up the fewest shots per game of the 3, the fewest goals per game, had the best expected goals per game, right there in hits, equal with the other two teams, and had more blocks per game. Look, guys, the problem isn't in our own end, and it isn't goaltending in the playoffs. Okay? So the problem is we have to score. Haven't scored enough. So number one on this list is power play. But number two is getting the Stars the puck with some momentum.
Yeah.
So that's why we have to hope we get the good, productive Timothy Liljegren come April, because he can move the puck. And if this is the case, I put together two scenarios here. Here's how they would line up. But either way, I'd like to see, Devo, this next stretch. Let's see if Edmondson and Liljegren can build on that Philly game and become a solid pair. Because you got a rock-solid stay-at-home guy. Maybe Liljegren can get in and move the puck a bit, and we're okay. And
I think that's
if he's going to be like you characterized it last time, hold your breath guy when he's going back in the corner to get the puck, then let's have Benoit do that. At least he'll get it off the boards and out.
Yeah, and he can lock a guy up. Listen, we've seen I think in the last week, I guess with the days off, the last 10 days, we've seen the best and the worst of Liljegren.
Yeah.
When I think of Timothy Liljegren, unfortunately for Timothy, if you're watching, I see that guy on the half boards skating up, looking at the puck, panicked, scared that he's going to get hit, and either has his head up and fans on the puck, or keeps his head down and gets gobbled up, and it causes a turnover. Either way, I've seen that puck go into the back of the net too many times. And it's so interesting for him, because I think you're exactly right. Him at his best, he's one of the better puck-moving guys. Him at his worst, it's like a hand grenade on his stick. And he's terrified. And you can see it in his eyes. They're bulging. He just doesn't give you confidence. So
we
this
certainly
is it,
saw
right?
at the deadline, right? What the value of a guy with a right curve that can play playoff minutes. We saw that value was overpriced. Chris Tanev for a first, and they wouldn't even take it.
Yeah.
So if he can develop, and if this year is unlike the last two, where he started and then he couldn't handle it and they had to go back to Justin Hall, if he can handle it this time, this is great value for the Leafs. But surely this is it, Devo. Like you can't fail three times.
No. And this is the thing, Coach Keefe has taken a different path this year. I think we got to give him. We at least have to talk about it. And maybe this is because Tree Living kind of called this your second job. He didn't fire him, but he's wanted him to sort of say treat it like this is a new job this year. He's yanked Liljegren because of lack of faith. The last 2 years, last two springs, he made it through the trade deadline on the team, and Keefe has tried to pump him up. And listen, I think if anyone doesn't see how much Keefe loves a guy like Benoit, and the fact that he's put him in the box, for Liljegren's favor, this is it. He's going against everything he believes to try to get this guy to the next level. And I think if he does, it really helps the Leafs' chances. But he cannot afford more games like those Boston games. I
don't know what the chances are, Devo, but it's worth it. Let's see if he can build some rapport with Edmondson. Let's hope. We got to hope.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, speaking of hope, Coach, what is there, about 17 games left in this season? We're in the waning days of the season, folks. What do you want to see? What are the unanswered questions you want taken care of and mopped up over these next few weeks?
Yeah, I want to see if William Nylander can get to 100 points, but really I want to see, can Austin Matthews stay healthy and can he score 70? I mean, look at it. Here's a stat here. They're making stuff up to measure him. Leads the league in goals between the dots, goals off weak set. Some of these aren't even categories, but he scores from everywhere. He is having a season for sure. Can he win the Hart? I mean, look at this. He's got multiple years with 40 plus even strength goals. Hasn't been done since Pavel Bure.
Yes.
Now, the Hart 70 is really just him and staying healthy and getting some bounces, and getting in the right places and getting him the puck. The Hart is different. The Hart is tough. There are some guys having tremendous years here. It's a great race for the Art Ross. So I don't know. We'll see. Last thing I'll leave you with, though, is, hey, can we get that power play humming? It's maddening. It's been maddening for years to have us have a great power play in the regular season and have it be sort of dying off going into the playoffs. That is how you win series. That's how you win series. We need the power play to get going.
Yeah. Absolutely right, and as you say, it's one thing to have a great power play in the regular season, but gosh, teams that hoist the cup seem to have one humming in the postseason. All right, folks, there you have it. Everything you need to know about the Leafs. You come here, right here, and we got you covered, right here on the OZone.